recorded, and at this time, I would like to turn the call over to Chris Costello. Please go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Yolanda. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's UFC 226 media conference call. UFC 226 takes place as part of International Fight Week on Saturday, July 7th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The event airs live on pay-per-view. And the lead into 226, the Ultimate Fighter finale, Friday, July 6th at the Pearl Theater at the Palms. Today's call will be in two parts. The main event featuring heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic and light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier will join us in 30 minutes. But to kick things off, please welcome the athletes competing in the co-main event title fight, featherweight champion Max Holloway and number one contender Brian Ortega. With that, we can open up the questions.
And at this time, if you do have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up your handset prior to pressing star 1 or release your mute button. Again, that's star 1 for questions at this time. We'll pause for just a moment. Our first question will come from Damon Martin with FlowCombat.com. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, let me first question for Max Holloway. Max, obviously you had a bit of a letdown in your last fight. Trying to get the fight with Khabib, and now you're moving on to Brian Ortega. Did you allow yourself a little time to kind of get that out of your system and then move on? It was a pretty quick turnaround.
You kind of broke up there, bro. What you say?
So. Obviously, you had the disappointment of not getting the fight with Khabib at 223. Did you allow yourself to get a little upset about that and move on, or did you move on right away and get your head focused on Brian Ortega?
Shit was depressing. I got two fights pulled from me 2 months apart, March and April, and then man, it wasn't a good place to be. But now we're here. I was looking that. Whatever happened, it is what it is. I just can't wait now. It's next week. Next week I get to go out there and show out. So looking forward to next week now.
Where would you put Brian Ortega in terms of the toughest guys you've faced in your career? Based on obviously you've been on this huge winning streak. Where would you put him in that list? Do you think he's the toughest, most well-rounded guy you faced, or do you believe you faced tougher opponents in the past?
I believe he's one of the best. I believe he's one of the best guys in the world, and I also believe that his team is one of the best teams in the world. They wouldn't be in front of me if they wasn't. So, I think he's the best, but one of the best, but the best is still blessed. So you gotta see me next week.
You're obviously defending your featherweight title next weekend, but you've been no secret that you talked about moving to lightweight. You almost did it for the Khabib fight. Have you set a time limit on how long you want to fight at featherweight? 1 fight, 2 fights, and then move to lightweight, or are you more concerned at staying at featherweight now?
At the end of the day, Dana White said it. He said it when I took that fight. That thing was, they was projecting to do as big as 205, and that was like, you guys know how big that 205 card was. That's $1 million+ buys. So we see what happens. 155 right now. No disrespect to the guys up there, but it's a logjam. It's been a logjam for 2 years. 145, we got everything rolling. We had a logjam, and now we're rolling. Now we keep the ball rolling. But if we go up there, who would I fight? I don't know who I'd fight. I don't know who they'd want me to fight. They're Khabib or whoever. But we see what happens. Of course, I'm definitely gonna go up. It's just a matter of time. Who's left at 45, and then. Medically wise too. So there's a bunch of questions that we can sit down and talk to the UFC after this fight. But first things first, I got business to handle at 45 at Zone to defend, and I got one of the biggest fights of my life coming up next week.
Absolutely. And a question for Brian Ortega. Brian, everyone knows you so well for your submission skills, but you actually had, knockouts in the UFC prior to the Frankie Edgar fight. But do you feel like you answered a lot of questions about your striking and your knockout ability when you finished Frankie to kind of move away from just being the submission guy?
Yeah, of course, man. I feel like, because before those two, the last back-to-back fights pretty much against Moicano and Cobb were submissions, so everyone was just looking at the submission part of it. But, now, with the Frankie, it just kind of reminded people that, I got the stand-up element as well.
When you came to the UFC, obviously you had, those crazy third-round finishes, so many in a row, but your last two you've gone out and been pretty dominant. Second-round finish against Cub, first-round finish against Frankie. Do you feel like you've kind of turned the corner a little bit to where you've kind of gotten that slow start maybe a little bit out of your system, or has something changed in training to where you've kind of focused on, becoming more of a fast starter or any of that?
No, man, honestly, before I used to kind of just care a little bit more about what the outcome would be, and then lately I haven't really cared too much, to be honest, man. I just go in there and just do my thing and just leave no worries in there and just kind of just have fun while I'm in there, and that itself just kind of worked its way into these fast starts, and but yeah, man, I just stopped kind of caring about the outcome and just going in there and going balls to the wall.
And last question, I know winning the title is the ultimate goal here, but you've talked so much about your charity and the things you want to do to help people and kind of be out there and doing those kind of things. What is bigger for you in this fight, winning the title, or is it more about the platform it will give you to do that so you can help more people and do more things outside the sport?
Well, the belt is a selfish goal of mine, as in terms of wanting to become the best in the world. For me, if I have the belt, pretty much what it means is, you're at the top of the limelight, and when you're at the top of the limelight, you have more eyes that are on you, and ultimately, I just want a lot of eyes on me, so I can just share my message on trying to just help people out, and like I said, make the world a better place.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you. We'll go next to Stephen Muehlhausen with SportingNews.com. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thank you for taking time out today. The first question is for Max. And, Max, I just wanted to ask, and I don't know if you said it in previous interviews, but how long did it take to get over the disappointment of UFC 223?
I don't really know a timeline. It just was depressing, man. That shit was... Look, I'm a guy who's used to fighting 2 to 4 times a year. Last year I had 2. The year before that, I think I had 2. And then, this year is my first one, and I'm supposed to have 2. And the depressing stuff was they got taken away from me. Doctors doing their job. I'm not hating on no doctor, but this is doing their job. So it was out of my hands. So it was a bit depressing, but it's like I said, I'm focused, and I can't wait. I can't wait for next week. It's finally here. We're a week away, and can't wait to go out there and remind the world.
And I want to ask this question to you, Max, and to Brian. And, a lot of people have been dubbing this fight the greatest featherweight title fight in history, even bigger than what we've seen with Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo, just considering, Max, where you're at this stage, and Brian, and where you're at. Do you guys feel this is a bigger fight than Aldo McGregor, or do you think it's the biggest featherweight fight since then?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. This is the biggest featherweight fight for sure. If you look at it, in the last whatever years, 10 years or so, it doesn't have the likes of Aldo, Edgar, Mendes, or even McGregor. So I think so. This is huge. Two young lions. 2 young faces. With 2 young faces, we stood practically brand new to the sport. So I think it definitely is the biggest fight of featherweight division.
And your thoughts, Brian?
I agree.
Thank you guys for the time, and the best of luck next Saturday.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you. We'll go next to Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. First off, for both Max and Brian, have either of you been informed yet on how the weigh-ins will work for this fight? Will it be back to the afternoon weigh-ins, or will you be weighing in early in the morning for this fight?
I have no idea. That's Chris. Chris, let us know what's going on. We're trying to figure it out, but I think so. It might be morning still.
Guys, for this event, it will be the morning weigh-ins.
Roger. There you go.
Now, the talk right now is the UFC will be moving back to the afternoon weigh-ins, or at least that's the plan. Do either of you have a preference? And I mean, Max, in the past, certainly you were set to fight Anthony Pettis. He failed to make weight for your title fight. Even though you made weight for that fight, for the interim title. And it seems in the last 2 years, it seems in a comparable period, 62 fighters missed weight compared to 32 missing weight beforehand. Is this a problem, or should it stay at the morning weigh-in?
I believe it's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I just think so. People are still trying to figure out their timing with it. At the end of the day, if they want to bring back the afternoon weigh-ins, they shouldn't take away the morning weigh-ins from the guys who wants to do it. If they want that, they should do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And the guys who in the morning want to go over there and get it done. And then the guys in the afternoon, if you guys want to suffer all the way to whatever, 4 o'clock, 5, 4:15, 4:30, you guys go ahead and do that. So I think they should just have two of the weigh-ins. If you opt out of the morning one and you can't, you don't want to make it then you have the option to go all the way in the afternoon. And then if you want to do the option in the morning, then you do it.
Max, was it a blessing in disguise at all that the Khabib fight was called off? Because I know you were coming off the foot injury. Is the foot injury better? Is it healed now? And are you much more prepared for a big title fight against Brian Ortega?
Yeah, I was prepared. I was ready to go. I was ready to go in April. My ankle was ready to go in April. A lot of people keep questioning it. I was ready. I was ready to fight. If you want to be the best, you gotta go out there and do the damn thing. So I feel great, man. I feel good, and next week y'all gonna see again. You guys gotta get reminded. So next week gonna be fun.
And for Brian, do you see holes in Max's game that you're going to be exploiting for this fight?
No, I mean, obviously we always train and we watch film on everyone we fight, and we get a nice training camp based around that. And yeah, absolutely, man. I wouldn't be here challenging the guy if I didn't think I could beat him.
And likewise for you as well, Max. And that's it for me.
Yeah, the beautiful thing of the sport, when you're outside this game, you're watching. People say this, people say that, but we get to find out. We get to find out. So you guys make sure you guys tune in next week, and we're gonna find out.
Thank you, gentlemen, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll move now to Harry Kettle with Sportskeeda MMA.
Hi guys, my first question is for Max. Max, people refer to you as someone who can carry the featherweight division for years to come. For you personally, what's more important, to have a resume of big names that you've defeated, like Aldo and potentially Ortega, or is it more important to be able to say that you've helped to grow the prestige of the featherweight championship?
My man DC said it perfect. It's this is a legacy thing. When it's all said and done, I want to leave a legacy. And in whatever way it's done, if it's helping the division, if it's fighting big names, I just want to be remembered one of the greatest of all time to ever do this in the sport. So that's just what I want to do. I sacrifice a lot of time away from my family, away from my son, and I just want to make them proud, make my family proud, make my fans proud, and leave a legacy.
And you mentioned that obviously your last 4 fights have followed the same pattern of fighting in June, then in December, over the last 2 years. Do you want to continue with that trend, or do you get restless when you go that long without being in the octagon?
Man, I love fighting. I just love fighting. This is what I think I was put on the earth to do, is to fight. So, the more fights, the better. But, the UFC got to be smart with the way they use certain guys and use certain fighters. So, if they want me to fight more often, I'll fight more often. If they want me to stay on the schedule, then I'll stay on the schedule. It doesn't matter with me.
And a few quick questions for Brian. Brian, your work outside of the octagon has been well documented. In the lead up to this fight, how much time have you been able to dedicate to the Brian Ortega Foundation in comparison to your usual day-to-day life when you're not in camp?
I mean, obviously, I prefer to not be in camp. That way I have more time. But this time, we were able to have hospital visits, and we went and visited the kids over there and hung out with them and just kind of just shine some light on their day because they've been there and stuck in the hospital all day. And then after that, we went to the beach and we had a surf experience day and took all the kids out surfing, man. Had a great time with them. All the kids who have cystic fibrosis, we took them out there and they surf with the pros and surf with guys like myself and everything. And then just kind of watched them have a good beach day. And that was it. But, only two events really happened during this training camp just because I have to buckle down and not, really see past my opponent and not see past myself and get comfortable. I really got to go in there, work hard, train hard, and, once I do my work next week, then I can go back to doing what I do.
And you spoke during a recent interview about gradually kind of becoming more comfortable dealing with the media and interviews. Do you find yourself enjoying every aspect of having a bigger profile now, or did you prefer it more when you were kind of a dark horse?
I like the dark horse era better. Like the unknown.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Best of luck next week.
Thank you all.
We'll go next to Akhilesh Ganavarapu with MMA India. Please go ahead.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. My first couple of questions go to Max Holloway. Max, the talk surrounding Ortega's game is largely about his jiu-jitsu, and half of his wins have come by submission. Now, you have fought some of the best strikers and well-rounded fighters in the division, so I'm kind of interested to get your thoughts on a different dimension of challenge that Ortega would bring come July 7th.
We're about to find out. Tune in next week. This is mixed martial arts, guys. Everybody keep talking about his submission, his striking, my submission game. At the end of the day, we find out. That's the beautiful thing about this sport. We're about to find out, and next week, y'all gonna see.
Gotcha. And you've almost cleaned out the division, and there was even talk about you moving up a weight class. You're still 26, very, very young in the sport. Now, UFC 226 is also arguably the most stacked card of 2018. So give us your thoughts on what fighting in the co-main event means to you, all the sponsorships that have come your way, and all the spotlight just at the age of 26.
It means a lot, I wanted to be on big card. You want to be a part of these big cards. You want to be a part of history. We got a man in the main event going for history. One of them trying to be the longest reigning defending heavyweight champion. One of them trying to hold two belts at the same time. And then you got big. They call it a super fight. They're not only talking about the main event. They're talking about the co-main event too. So it means a lot to me to be able to have this spot on this card. This is like the Super Bowl of the UFC. A blockbuster, a big blockbuster hit that comes out in the summer. This is it.
Gotcha. Next couple of questions for Brian. Brian, you're undefeated coming into the fight on the back of big wins against legends such as Cub Swanson and Frankie. Now, while you got those finishes, it seemed like you were pulling them out of nowhere. Given Holloway's durability, how important do you think it is against the champ to remain switched on throughout the fight?
Well, it's got to be important, because when I go in there, I don't go in there to score points. I don't go in there for show. I go in there just one objective, and that's finish my opponent. I really made a statement when I went to the UFC and put myself in that kind of mind frame where if I'm going to be in this game, there should be no decisions. And for me, it's just this mind switch that happened a long time ago, and it just keeps getting better and better. And with, different opponents, it works differently, Just some people can last and survive a little bit longer than others, and then others, they just fall quicker. So for me, it's just my switch is always on.
Well, absolutely. It's also interesting you say that because your last decision win came in 2014. Now I got to talk about Holloway's durability once again. While, you'll be facing him next weekend, how impressed were you with Max's wins over Jose Aldo?
No, that was dope, man. The guy beat Jose Aldo, I don't think people give him too much credit, but he was holding down the featherweight division for about 10 years. He became the champ, and he stayed the champ, I believe, for 10 years until him and Conor met. And then after that, people kind of, in a way, forgot about Aldo. But the guy is a legend himself, and for Max did that twice to him. That's very impressive.
Absolutely. One final question for you. You previously said that this fight will be as big as Conor and Aldo in the featherweight division. Talk us through your rise over the past 12 months since your win over Renato at UFC 214.
I mean, it's crazy, man. Just a year ago, I was getting ready to fight in my backyard over here in Anaheim, California. And a year later, I'm getting ready to fight for the world title. That's something that doesn't happen to too many people, where they pretty much earn a shot in less than a year. This will be my fourth fight in less than 1 year. And, I fought Moicano, and then took a little vacation and went to Guam after that. And then from there on, it was work. Got ready for Cub, beat Cub, went to Mexico, saw all my family, and then boom, took the Frankie Edgar fight. And now, right after the Frankie Edgar fight, we took the Max Holloway fight.
Yep. So thank you once again, gentlemen, and all the very best for next weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as a reminder, that's *1 to signal for a question at this time. We'll go next to Ryan Sprague with MyMMAnews.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just a real quick question for both of you guys. I'll start with Brian. Brian, you just mentioned that you're in 4 fights in a calendar year, and you're talking about how when you're in the top of the division, you're in the limelight. You have more people's eyes on you. Do you think that you need to keep taking that many fights to be able to be in the limelight, or would you rather take the larger fight?
I'd rather take the larger fight. Larger fights mean more. Just cause, man. Two good large fights a year is good enough for me. Training full on year round is great, and I love staying in shape and always being ready. But I mean, I kind of feel like sometimes I don't have a life. All I do is just live in the gym. There's a lot of time, that we sacrifice from my family and from everyone, and pretty much I really haven't had a life in a year, man. I've just been training, working, and just trying to climb to the top. So if I could have it my way, I would work hard, get 2 crazy fights in the year, and then just relax for a little bit.
And do you think that would be a level to allow you to provide more for your foundation?
Absolutely, man. This game is who can move the needle, you know what I'm saying? And the more eyes that are on you, the better. And the more you're doing better while these eyes are on you, the more the fans are going to go for your side. They're going to cheer for you. And ultimately, that's what I want to do, man, either gain fans and supporters from everywhere, you know what I'm saying? UFC is one platform, and, after this, I'm going to be doing a little bit of acting and doing some stuff like that. So it's going to just get more eyes on me from different platforms to help me pretty much relay my message that I want.
Thank you. And Max, kind of the same question to you. Do you feel like you might be having to take too many fights, or do you think that you're right at the correct amount of fights in a year?
Yeah, I think so. I like fighting, man. I love fighting. I love being in the gym, and I love training. And it's just time management thing, We figure it out, But if you get 2 big fights a year, that's also good. But I take whatever I get, This window is too short. This window is too short to be kicking back in and enjoying, So if I fight more, I fight more. If I fight less, I fight less. If we get big fights, we get big fights. And if so on and so on, I just want to fight, man. I'm here to fight, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's all I got.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you. And our final question will come from Rodney James Edgar with MMA Soldier. Please go ahead.
Hey, Max. Obviously, everybody already knew that Brian Ortega's, a really outstanding fighter, but his last 2 just, completely ran through 2 of the best guys. Did you kind of have that aha moment when you saw that, going, man, this kid's even better than I thought he was?
No, not really. The thing you gotta understand is that once you're in the top, once you're in the UFC, I mean you gotta be pretty good. And when you get into the top 10 and the top 5, that means you're like one of the best guys in the world. So I respect everyone that stepped in the octagon. I respect, and then to get into the top 10, top 5, and now be a challenger for the title, that's always respectable. I respect everyone at the end of the day.
Cool. Obviously, you want to stay focused on this fight, but you're always wheeling and dealing as a businessman. You've always got a game plan, a vision for where you want to go. You think after this, regardless of the outcome, we're finally going to get to see the Frankie Edgar match?
We see it happen. We just gotta sit down. We talk it to UFC. First things first. We got business to handle next week, as always. But if Frankie's the next guy, my talks with the UFC is not hard. They call up, I tell them, we talk, and I tell them, look, you find the best guy you guys think is the best guy, whoever you guys think the best guy is, put him on this contract, put his name on this contract, I'm going to sign the dotted line. That's it. It's plain and simple.
I love it. There's a lot of great fights between now and your fight in Las Vegas. A lot of fights going on, including a Hawaiian champion that's fighting tomorrow night. So any fights that you're looking forward to leading up to fight week?
Team Hawaii for the win, all the time. The Hawaii wave be rolling. So, yeah, I know Ilima's fighting tomorrow. She's going to do her thing. And then I think we got Hawaiians on the Contender show next week, Tuesday. And then we got, of course, Brad headlining the night before us. And then I think Osovich is on that too. So, should be fun. Should be a fun week. Should be a fun week. Great week great week and a half for Hawaii, and it's going to be exciting for fans.
Great. T-City, same question for you. Any fights that you're looking forward to?
No, man, not to be honest. To be honest, I don't even watch fights too much. I'd rather go surf. I'd rather go do something outside.
Really?
Too much of a TV watcher. But I'm just getting ready and happy for next Saturday. That's the fight I'm looking forward to.
Right on. Every time you step in the cage, you look absolutely massive. I imagine that you walk around, pretty heavy in comparison to 145. Talk me through the last week of your weight cut. What is that? Is it very difficult for you? I mean, how much weight and what's the process?
I mean, the process is just make 145. No, I'm Mexican, man, so we like to eat a lot. You know what I'm saying? Mama and Dad always make them tacos, So, yeah, I walk around pretty heavy, but, I mean, I train hard, I work hard, and I've never missed weight. And the last week, pretty much for me, is just kind of, I've been learning how to do that water load trick, I guess, where you drink a lot of water and you pretty much make it an easier cut for yourself. And against the Frankie fight, that really worked well. So I'm going to try it on this fight.
Oh, very good. And last question I have for you, T-City, is, obviously this is a 5-round championship fight. Vegas has an interesting climate. I mean, it's not humid. It's not really at a high elevation, but it is really dry and it is very hot. I mean, I know you're fighting inside, but you still have to kind of get acclimated. So how do you prepare differently for a 5-rounder in that climate coming into this one?
No, I mean, I'm always training over here, man, and I got Mexican blood running through my veins, and we're desert people, that's where we thrive the most.
Well, thank y'all, gentlemen. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing y'all.
Thank you, Boss.
Thank you. And with that being our final question, I'll turn the conference back over to Chris Costello.
Thanks, Yolanda. I want to thank Max and Brian for joining today's call. Media, please stay on the line as we dial in the main event.
Welcome back, everyone, to the UFC conference call. I'll turn the call over to Chris Costello. Please go ahead, Chris.
Get there. Thanks, Yolanda. We'd now like to welcome in the main event for 226 heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic and light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. With that, we can open up the questions.
Certainly, and again, that's star one if you would like to signal for a question. We'll go first to Damon Marks with slowcombat.com.
Hey guys, first question for DC. DC, in the lead up to this fight, obviously you're getting ready for such a big matchup, going for the heavyweight title. But has the John Jones stuff, has that ended up being a depression because there's so much stuff for the last week and a half?
I think that at this point, when a guy's been as inactive as Jones, he ties himself to certain individuals to keep his name in the he tries to keep himself relevant. And it's easy to talk trash to me because people always ask me questions. I mean, we're getting on the conference call for Stipe and I fight next week, and the first question is about John Jones. So then I answer the question, and then he obviously sees my answer to the question, so then it gives him an opportunity to kind of put himself back into relevancy whenever he isn't.
So I'll go ahead and ask you the second John Jones question, which is, this last week, things got really personal on Twitter. He went personal, really kind of a low blow, mentioned your wife. I know you fired back at him. You guys have said a lot of things about each other over the years, but is it disappointing that things had to go that route?
No, it's kind of what he does. Before our very first fight, there were some direct messages sent, and he said something. He called me like he said he was my daddy or some shit like that, right? And I guess somebody told him something in reference to my father being murdered. So he had Dana call me on three-way to apologize for saying anything like I'm your daddy or something like that. But every time we start to argue, he goes back to I'm your daddy. So it's like he didn't mean to apologize. He knows exactly what he's doing. So there's like deeper meaning to when he says, who's your daddy? There's deeper meaning because of the history and him going through that unnecessary step of having Dana call me with him on the phone so that he can personally apologize for saying anything about my father, when then he just kind of goes back to it anytime we start to argue. So there's a little bit deeper meaning to most of the stuff that we say. So outside of saying anything about my wife, but also, the thing with the daddy, look, man, the guy's not a good guy, and why would a scumbag like that have any limits?
DC, throughout your career, you've fought every kind of fighter. You've fought everybody that's ever been thrown in front of you, from heavyweight down to light heavyweight, including, obviously, John Jones on 2 occasions. Where do you rank Stipe Miocic in terms of the toughest opponents you've ever faced, in terms of your readiness and the things you had to do to prepare for this fight?
I think he'll be the best. I mean, he is who he is for that reason, that he's the baddest man on the planet. They call the heavyweight champ the baddest man on the planet. And for a long time, guys got to have that title for a short period of time because they would get knocked off. Stipe has proven that he can sustain his success. And also, we got to watch him from day one. You watch the guy that went to war with, I can't remember the guy's name, Joey Beltran? Is it Joey Beltran, I think, is the guy from San Diego. Not exactly sure. It's the Mexicution. I'm drawing the blank on his last name, but Joey, Stipe went to war with him. And as he continues to fight, you just keep seeing him evolve. So, he's a good guy. But that's why I'm fighting.
And last question for you, DC. You've talked about what it would mean to become a champ, to become the two-weight world champion. You kind of mentioned it in your Tough Talk interview, but I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Because of that, the magnitude of that, do you believe in your mind? I know you said you want to be considered one of the greatest of all time, but in your mind, DC, if you go out and beat Stipe Miocic on July 7th, are you the greatest of all time?
I think I am. I mean, I don't believe that anything else should be thought of. I mean, I should be in the conversation. I mean, anytime a guy does performance-enhancing drugs, and on multiple occasions, they eliminate themselves. So for as great as Anderson Silva was, he tested positive, I think, 2 times. Jones has tested positive two or three times. I mean, those guys eliminate themselves. I want to be mentioned among the greats, the George St. Pierres and the Demetrius Johnsons, the guys that have done things the correct way over the course of their entire careers without that asterisk. Because when you start getting performance enhancers tied to your name, man, there's no way around that. You know, there's no way around it. And I think that of all the sports, you know, the people that pay the harshest price is the baseball players, because when you have negative tied to your name, they deny you the ultimate vindication, the ultimate goal of a baseball player is to go to the Hall of Fame. And these guys aren't even getting close. You know, I mean, the Mark McGuires, the Sammy Sosas, and Barry Bonds, those guys aren't getting close, man, because they have those bad things tied to their name. And I think as a sport, MMA needs to evolve to the point that the punishment for having doing those things is to be your place within the sport should be challenged and should be questioned.
Yeah. Thank you, DC. A question for Stipe. Stipe, you know, you've fought anybody and everybody that the UFC has thrown in front of you in your entire career. And I know you always say the next fight is always the most important fight, but would a win over Daniel Cormier mean more to you just because of the magnitude of this fight, because he is a champion, and because, let's be honest, DC carries a pretty big resume?
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean, DC's fought the best in the world. He's beat the best in the world. I mean, he's an amazing fighter, and, you know, we're going to beat him. It's going to be amazing, and I'm super excited. And just the whole matchup, you know, just we bring, you know, great skill sets to the table, and, you know, people are super excited for UFC 226 like I am. I mean, I wish it was this Saturday, honestly.
You get up for every single fight, but you also stay very grounded. You don't let the magnitude of a fight overwhelm you. Do you think that's a big part for you going into this fight, that, you know, you kind of treat it as just a fight? You're not looking at the event or the magnitude of it. Do you think that helps you going into a fight like this, that you don't let the outside stuff get to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have other things to worry about. You know, Dan's going to come in and he's going to try to beat me up. I'm going to try to beat him up. I mean, that's what we signed up for. That's life, you know, but in the end of it, you know, I got a family who loves me, and I go home, and no matter what happens, I'm out there in good health.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Mark Podolsky with Lake County News Herald. Please go ahead.
Hey, Stipe. How you doing, man? Hey, last time you fought, I remember you saying, you said you maybe came out, I don't know if you came out too strong. You said you were pretty tired in that first period, and Ngannou, he was throwing some haymakers at you. You know, what are your expectations for maybe how this fight might start in the first round? Do you think it might be a little more of a slower pace?
No, definitely not. I mean, definitely, he's gonna bring it. So he does. He brings it to the table every time he comes hard, and you know, I think last fight wasn't ready for, you know, Ngannou throwing bombs like that. I just, you know. It was interesting, but I wasn't too tired. I felt fine after that first round. I honestly just needed to blow my lungs out a little better. But you know, DC's definitely gonna come out, and he's definitely gonna, you know, bring it. And so, you know, I'll be there for whatever happens.
You know, the way you won that fight against Francis was unlike any other fight you had during your reign as champion. You know, you had these quick first round knockouts, and you kind of had to be methodical and grind it out, and with a lot of takedowns. Did you prove anything to yourself that you can kind of win? Hey, I can win with my right hand, but if I got to get down and dirty, I can do it that way too. Did that help with anything in your kind of your entire arsenal?
Oh yeah, I think I just have amazing coaches and teammates. You know, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And having a good game plan walking in and making sure we did it right, and, you know, and came out and still.
How sick are you of Brock Lesnar questions right now?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I got worry about July 7th. That's all I care about. So, I mean, people ask. I mean, it is what it is.
And with your situation at home with your wife Ryan and having a child on the way, and the due date so close to when the fight, it's like early August. Is that about the ballpark for the arrival?
Yeah, through the summer, yeah, but she's so demanding. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like Jesus. I'm like, come on, like, oh my God, I can't have a child. I'm just going, no, she's awesome. I'm very lucky to have her in my life, honestly, and she's an amazing wife, and she's gonna be an amazing mother, and a couple more weeks we'll be ready to go here, and I'll be having a new one running around driving me nuts, which I can't wait for.
When you have that situation, obviously you've never experienced, not being a father yet, but has there been any kind of challenge in staying focused when you got to deal with being the champ, preparing for a big fight, and you got your wife at home pregnant? And you want to? Is it hard to balance both those things right now?
No, I mean it sucks sometimes when you get stuff in the mail and you got to put it together. It's annoying, and you can't figure it out. You're trying to read the instructions. That's what really irritates me.
Hey, motivation-wise, I know last fight, you kind of took it personal with some of the comments that were made about Francis compared to you. You're the Vegas favorite, so it's a little different for you. How does that feel?
I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a fight. Odds or not, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to win. That's what I do.
Hey, DC, I remember in the last fight in Boston, making weight. Was it a struggle? I saw you walking down the hallway into the weight room where they were making weight, and like any wrestler who's been through high school, college, cutting weight's a pain in the ass. I'm guessing this is not going to be an issue for you this time. Are you looking forward to that?
Oh yeah, I mean, not having to cut any weight is very pleasant. I question how I put so much energy into training camp when I'm so depleted in terms of my nutrition, but it's what I do. 205 is the weight class that I fight at. So, yeah, Boston was tough. It was cold, and it was cold in the gym, so it was hard to break the sweat. But I made it, and I won the fight. It's good to not have to make weight. That's just one less thing to worry about, but I'm just excited about next week and getting to this fight.
Are you feeling stronger during camp, not having to cut weight?
I feel much stronger. I mean, when I was fighting up at heavyweight, I had when I punched people, it had an effect on them. And lately, I haven't had that at 205, and I question whether or not the guys down there just have better chins, or if the extra weight was making me stronger. And now I'm doing much more in practice. I'm dropping guys with my punches. I've knocked some guys out in practice in the training room, so I can see the effect that my hands and my legs are having on the guys when I make contact now.
Hey, this is for both you guys. Going through this Ultimate Fighter experience with the reality show, and I know the filming was months ago, not compared to what the lead up to the fight is now. But was that when you guys agreed to that? Did you guys have any trepidations about? Well, do I want to be interacting with a guy I'm going to be fighting in a few months from now? Did you have any worries about that, Daniel? Do you want to go first with that?
No, I didn't. I mean, I've spent time with Stipe before. I actually went to Cleveland and filmed a show on him called In the Clinch. Just kind of getting the background in the Stipe Miocic. And, I went as not a guy that may fight him at some point. I just went as essentially a reporter or a guy doing an interview. And when I learned his mentality, and I was like, wow, this guy has a real strong mindset for competition and for life. So when the fight was brought to me, I said, man, I want to fight this guy, not only for legacy, but because I know his mental. And if I'm the person that can go and break that mental, I'm the person that can go and get that title, I want to try to do that. So I accepted the fight knowing that he's a strong mental fighter, but also no issues with doing the show. It felt good to compete against him in another way before we actually got to the fight.
Stipe, how did you feel about that with the show leading up to the fight?
Oh, I mean, it was great. I learned a lot about Daniel also. I mean, Daniel's an amazing coach. He's coached before. I'd never done that before. And so I learned a lot about it. I watched what he did, too, and took a little things from him coaching-wise. It was kind of great. And, it was kind of nice to, do both, get to know him even more. And, it was fun. It was a good experience. And definitely, it was a lot of fun, honestly.
Hey, last thing for both you guys. Stipe, I know you're a big Cleveland sports guy. There's a huge decision coming up with LeBron. How closely have you been following it? Do you have anything you want to say to LeBron about should he stay? Obviously, I'm sure you want him to stay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I hope he does stay. But listen, he brought the title like he said he was. If he moves on, he moves on. But so it's best for him and his family. DC,
you live out in California. How big of a news item is it out there? And I'm sure do you have any interest in all this? How it might play out?
The only thing I care about is if LeBron goes to Houston. That's what I want.
Goes where?
To Houston. I want LeBron to go to the Rockets. That's what I want.
Really? Why is that?
Because I love the Rockets. From Louisiana, man. That was the team I rooted for as a kid. And, if we were to add LeBron James to the chemistry that Chris Paul and James Harden and the rest of the team has, we might actually have a shot at beating Golden State.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
You will go next to Stephen Muehlhausen with SportingNews.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you guys for the time to start with you, Daniel. And when I know you had said that you didn't want to move off the heavyweight, just because of everything with Kane, and Kane was getting ready to make a return. What was that conversation like that you had with Kane to convince you to move up to heavyweight and take this fight with Stipe?
When I asked him about it, he was like, "Look, man, you got a chance to go and do something so special. You got to do it." And then when we look at the fight, there's confidence. A lot of people may think, Stipe's won this belt and defended it on multiple occasions, and he's looked phenomenal doing it. But when we look at the matchup and we watch the competition and we watch the way that we fight, Kane, along with everybody else, felt pretty confident, and we decided to go for it.
You look at this fight, and Damon said it at the beginning, you faced the best of the best, when you faced John Jones 2 times. And do you feel this is the biggest fight of your career? Because we know Stipe's going to be clean. We know there's going to be no shenanigans after the fight. Mm-hmm. So considering all that, is this the biggest fight in your career in your mind?
This is the biggest fight of my career because I'm fighting the heavyweight champ of the world, the most successful heavyweight champ of the world. I think Stipe is great. Do I think he's the best heavyweight of all time? No. I still believe Cain Velasquez is. But I do believe he's the most successful heavyweight champion of all time. And, it's a big fight. I've been in a lot of big spots, right? So I fought Jones twice. I fought at UFC 200. I fought main event, and Stipe has too, but I fought in a lot of big spots. And I believe that this one ranks as high, if not higher, than everything I've ever competed in.
I've seen an interview you did earlier in the week, and you were talking about you have a plan if you do emerge victorious next Saturday. You do want to face John again, and then you want to face Brock Lesnar. You want to do that all by the time your birthday comes in March, and then you're going to ride off into the sunset. If for one reason or another, you get the one fight in at the end of the year, and the other fight you have to wait a little bit longer past your birthday, are you willing to do that and extend that deadline, or is it a hard deadline of March and you're done?
It's a hard deadline. I love it, man. I love that I know. I love that I can go and make my family the focus. I've done fighting for almost 9 years now. I started when I was about to turn 31, and for 9 years now I've been fighting. And I'm like, well, I know I'm going to be done by 40. I want to see what I can accomplish in this decade, and I've accomplished a ton. And I want to be able to spend more time with my family, do more with my wife, spend more time with my kids, and just kind of, live a normal life. I mean, my life hasn't been normal since I was 15 years old. At 15, I started traveling the world, wrestling, representing our country. So it's never been normal. I'm ready to kind of live normal.
And final question for you, Daniel, and everyone's been talking about John. Does that bother you to the fact that all this focus in this build-up has been on John instead of facing the heavyweight champion and the baddest man on the planet? Does that bother you at all?
I think it's part of my story, and regardless of what I do, it'll always be a part of my story. But you said something at the very beginning about Stipe Miocic. I know he won't test positive for anything. There will be no sex pill excuse. There will be no issues. This guy's going to come. He's going to fight clean. And he's going to fight hard. And that's what I want my focus to be. I don't want to worry about a guy that is notorious for trying to screw me, himself, his family, and everybody else. You guys can worry about him. You know, it's crazy that a person that is so self-destructive can be held in such high regard in the sport. It's sad.
And a couple questions for Stipe. And I want to ask the same question to Daniel. Does it bother you that the build-up to this fight hasn't really been focused on you and Daniel, and it's been more focused on Daniel and John?
No, I mean, I'm used to it. I'm not worried about it, you know. I'm just worried about my fight. That's all I care about. That's always what I've cared about. And I'm going to change. I'm going to fight. I'm a fighter. That's what I signed up for.
I remember me and you talked before you fought Francis, and you felt like the respect was, you felt the respect was still lacking a little bit, but it was getting better than it ever has been. Do you feel that it's grown more since the Francis fight? Hello?
That question for me?
Yeah, that was for you, Stipe. I'm sorry, my friend.
Oh, I thought you said Daniel. That's why I got nervous.
I'm sorry about it.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were talking to Daniel. I thought you said Daniel.
Oh, no, I apologize.
You said, when you said my name's Stipe, me on the hockey thing. I don't know how you talk.
Oh, my God. I am an idiot. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I thought you said, I'm sorry. Say it again now.
No, it's okay, Stipe. I remember when me and you talked before you fought Francis, and you felt, and I had asked you about getting the amount of respect you have been getting, and you had felt like it was growing since your previous fight. Do you feel now, since the Francis fight, the respect for you has grown?
Yeah, I think so. I think every fight, you get more respect. I think that's the way you conduct yourself in and outside the octagon. And I definitely think so. And, listen, some people are going to hate me, some people are going to love me. There's nothing I can do about that. So I just hope more people love me.
And last question, Stipe, and I know this was asked to Daniel earlier, and I wanted to ask you the same question. You've beaten everybody. You've beaten everyone in heavyweight you beat the best that the division has had to offer. You feel like facing someone like Daniel will cement your legacy now as the greatest fighter of all time?
Oh, definitely. DC fought the best, or always beat the best in the world. Definitely. It's an amazing fight. That's why it's a super fight. I just can't wait. I just, wish it was a summit already. I got to wait another whole week, which is fine with me. But, it's going to be a great fight. I'm excited. And listen, another whole week. So.
Thank you, guys, and the best of luck next Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. Question for Daniel. I don't have a John Jones question, but I do have a Brock Lesnar. So I apologize. It was reported earlier this month that there was talk of Brock Lesnar actually showing up to your fight, possibly challenging the winner. Since you seem to have a direct line to Brock Lesnar and you're closer to him than most, would you like to confirm today that Brock Lesnar is going to be watching your fight next month?
If there's talk of him fighting, I imagine he'd be watching it, but probably on TV. One thing I've learned about Brock Lesnar over the time that I've known him is that Brock isn't going out of his way for anybody. And if Stipe and I are fighting, and one of us may get to fight him, we'll have to see Brock Lesnar when it's time to fight, because Brock Lesnar is not clearing the schedule for anyone. So, no, I don't anticipate him being at our fight.
All right, then. And also there's talk of Alexander Gustafsson, a man you fought before, fighting at UFC 227. Considering you are still the reigning light heavyweight champion, would it bother you if the UFC, hypothetically made that an interim title fight the month after your fight for the heavyweight title?
Yes, it would bother me, because Alexander Gustafsson does not deserve to fight for an interim title. I fought for the belt just at the beginning of the year, and went up to chase something so much bigger. So, no, he doesn't deserve an interim title. He fought last May against Glover Teixeira, and he beat Jan Blachowicz before. So it's like, that was 2 years ago. He's fought twice in 2 years. You know that since Alexander and I fought in October of 2015, I fought Anderson Silva, Rumble Johnson, John Jones, and Volkan Ozdemir, and this dude's fought Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, and that's it. Like, that's 2 times in the last 3 years. Why would he be fighting for the title? That makes no sense. And I think all this interim title shit gets started because you guys asked about interim titles. It's almost like you put it in the air. Don't put that shit in the air, man.
Well, I mean, I believe you two actually put it in the air first on UFC Tonight, so that's why I asked, actually.
Again, I told him, take that shit. Don't try to will yourself into a championship. You had 2 shots, you lost.
Okay.
Another one.
Okay, and also for Stipe, in the past it seems like you've been at odds with the UFC. Would you say your relationship with the UFC or Dana White has improved since the fight with Ngannou going into this fight?
Sure, whatever you guys want. I mean, yeah. I guess. I don't know. I don't worry about that. I have a team to take care of that. I'm here to fight.
But Stipe, if you win this fight, would you allow Dana White to wrap the belt around your waist, or do you think there's still not enough respect there?
Well, when I win, and you'll find out.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final question will come from Harry Kettle with Sportskeeda MMA. Please go ahead.
Hi, guys. My first question is for Daniel. DC, as we know, you're a big professional wrestling fan. And in the last fight, in the fans' eyes, it was almost as if you completed your turn from heel to babyface, so to speak, with the fans chanting your name throughout the fight. Are you expecting another positive crowd next weekend? And at this stage in your career, how much does that matter to you?
It doesn't matter much. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, Stipe is a very likable guy. I think the fans choose who's the lesser of 2 evils, and most of the times I'm probably the most evil guy, so I get booed. But it's okay. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. You know, I've heard both sides of it, and generally speaking, I usually can turn fans because I'm usually the smaller guy, but I'm also usually the guy that's pressing forward and bringing the fight. So it doesn't really matter to me at this point.
With this fight being booked 5.5 months in advance, does that change the way you approach camp, and does it change the way you generally prepare for the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go into training camp right away. You know, while I was at the Ultimate Fighter, I worked out some. Went to the UFC PI while I was in Vegas to do some strength and conditioning. But I took my time. I started camp at 12 weeks like I would normally start camp. I just didn't have to do the nutrition. So my nutritionist came at a month this time instead of 7 weeks. You know, so that's like the only difference. Is I still carried the same workload, just without as much stress on my body.
And just a few questions for Stipe. Stipe, first of all, in the wake of your fight at UFC 220 in Boston, when you got the victory, did you anticipate that it would take such little time for your next fight to be booked? Because the amount of time between your victory over Ngannou and the fight with Cormier being booked was very short. Did you enjoy the fact that it was really quick that you had another fight in the pipeline?
No, I didn't worry about it. I mean, they asked about it before, and I told them don't talk to me until after my fight, you know, and then after the fight, you know, me and DC talked a little bit and made sure it was right for both of us, and, you know, here we are tonight, here we are today.
And finally, we've seen that you've been getting behind Croatia during the World Cup. If they win their round of 16 game against Denmark, then the quarterfinal game will actually be on the same night as UFC 226. Are you going to find time and find a way in the hours before the fight to watch it if they get there?
Oh, yeah, of course. They're going to win. Yes, of course. It's during the day, so I'll be all right.
Great. Best of luck next week, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that being our final question, I will turn the conference back over to Chris Costello. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Yolanda. We'd like to thank everybody for joining today's call. For all International Fight Week activities, please see the updated schedule of events that was released today or download the Fight Week app available now. We'll see everyone next week in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
That will conclude today's conference. Thank you all for joining.